Good morning. It's Sunday morning. It's 10:30 a.m. It's actually a little after 10:30 a.m. Running a couple minutes late this morning, not too bad. And that means it is time for Sunday Club. And Sunday Club is a weekly live stream where every week we take a look at some Ruby on Rails Ruby on Rails code, and we kind of build an app together. This week is a little different. We're not going to look at anything Ruby on Rails specific. As I mentioned last week, we're going to dive straight into building our user interface. And if you have ever seen one of these streams before, you'll know that we basically don't really have a user interface on the app that we work on each week. And it looks pretty rough, and we just kind of do enough to make it work. And every week I basically say, hey, what we're going to do is I will try and find some time in my week to work on the user interface and do a design or a build or something, and then pretty much never do, and then turn up the next week and apologize for not having done it. So last week I said we're going to just do it in the main stream. We're not going to worry too much about the Ruby on Rails side of things, and we're just going to come back and design and or build the user interface. And kind of I thought it might be interesting to kind of go through that whole process rather than just kind of stab around in Tailwind. So maybe this will be more than today's stream. In fact, probably will be, because these things always take longer than we think. So a couple of things. Let's talk about the app that we work on each week. We have an app where users can sign up for an account. They can give the app the ID of a YouTube channel at the moment, and then hopefully eventually a Twitch channel, and it will pull through their videos and show them in a web page, and they can click on the user can click on a video and see more information, and they can kind of edit and maintain those descriptions, titles, thumbnails, things like that. So that's what the app does. And the second thing to note is that so far we have basically the only thing we've done is months ago we installed Tailwind CSS, because I had seen a lot of stuff about it from people I was following on Twitter mainly, I think. And people seemed interested in it, and it seemed to be a thing that people were really happy with in terms of building their UIs, and I was interested in experimenting with it. We installed it in the app, and then basically I never actually got a chance to really use it, and so it's actually been a little bit of a blocker. Not a blocker, but like I always turn up to do something in the UI and I'm like, oh wait, yeah, we're using this thing. How do I do this? What is happening? So hopefully after this stream and the next couple, we can be a bit more comfortable with that, and maybe come up with a bit more of a better workflow with it, rather than just kind of thinking, oh yeah, I forgot about this thing, and having to go and jump into the docs. We haven't got any other follow-up. There's nothing else to talk about really. We're going to do some design stuff. Let's jump straight in. So let's take a look at our UI, if that's what you want to call it. I'll try and remember to put the links to the previous streams in the description of this video, but you can just search for like Tailwind in this channel or on YouTube. You'll probably find it where we installed it, and that's if you're interested in. I think we had to install the form plugin for it. Well, we didn't have to. We chose to install the form plugin for it. Got it working with Webpack via Webpacker in Rails, and got this button working. Oh, and we got the custom font working. So Sunday Club uses a font from Adobe Fonts, which is just the kind of like the font I use on the YouTube channel. So if you're interested in any of the technical side of that, there is already a stream where we've gone through all of that work. And also you can look in GitHub at the work in progress branch of the Sunday Club repo. The link for that is already in the video description. So if you're interested in the technical side, you can go and look over that. We're not going to look at the technical side of any of this stuff today. We're just going to dive into the how do we do this side of things. So I guess we kind of are starting from scratch, but I guess it might be interesting to kind of look at maybe how you think kind of come on, Max. In other videos, what we've done is maybe pitch a problem or pitch a feature or pitch something, and then looked at different solutions to it, mainly on the Ruby on Rails side of things. And I think maybe that's a good approach to take here. So because there is no one single way to design and build a UI or an application or something like that. Sorry, I'm just pressing my coffee off the screen if you can see me doing something weird with my arm. Why don't we treat this the same way and look at a few different options that you have, especially if you've never done this before, things you might want to consider and just kind of approach it that way. So we're a slightly strange in a slightly strange situation where we have lots of unfinished features and weird bits of code all over the place and some sort of weird UI. You would normally start from either having an existing app or some existing functionality that probably works, or you would have nothing at all and you're just designing from scratch. And I think that where you start generally depends on either your specific skill set, your preferences, or where you're up to. Like, what do you have at that starting point? So if you have a working app, you're probably starting with the existing code base and those assets. If you've got nothing at all, you might be like this. So this is Sketch. There's another live stream where I look at Sketch versus Figma for designing the UI. I've ended up using Sketch because I had an up-to-date version that let me use the library functionality, and in Sketch, using the kind of shared library functionality was a paid feature, and I'm just not using design tools enough at the moment to justify I think it was like $15 a month or something. So I just don't need that at the moment. So I've ended up using Sketch, which I have used a bunch in the past. This isn't the latest version. I'm a few versions behind because, again, I haven't renewed my license just because I'm not doing that stuff at the moment. So if I was starting from scratch, I might potentially just come in and start with a blank page. And that's fine. This is starting with a blank page in Sketch. I actually would probably start with either a sheet of paper or like a Jamboard, which we've used in Sunday Club before, which is where I could literally just sketch that. So let's take a look at what that might look like as well. So let's try and I'm just going to load a Jamboard up and bring it over. So let's make a new one. I'm going to do the same thing that we've done before, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So again, I don't know. I'm just going to find the Jamboard app. Hang on a second. Okay, so let's bring this onto this screen. Great. Okay, so let's call this one Sunday Club UI. And so I think what I'm going to do here is demonstrate what I feel is a big difference between starting with a blank sheet in Sketch or Figma versus starting with a blank sheet on a blank sheet of paper or something like Jamboard. I actually use an iOS app called Concepts, which is great if you're sketching UI stuff. Really recommend that. iOS Concepts app. Yeah, this I really enjoy this. If you're into designing UIs, this is really good. Really good free version and some great paid stuff. Can I move that to left to right? Yeah, I can. Yeah, so you can see really cool sketching stuff here. Great app for that. Cool color palettes and stuff. That's Concepts for iOS. I think they have like web versions, and yeah, look, they're everywhere. Cool. Jamboard is not as good. It's very basic. So let's kind of say what I would probably do here. I'm just going to move my keyboard out of the way. Just make sure the stream is okay. Cool, so everyone can see. I'm just going to move the mic, so pointing down. So in here, I'm going to do this really roughly. So is this coming up on the screen? With me. It should be appearing here. And it's totally not. Am I in the right one? amazing, amazing technology problems before we've even started. I'm just gonna check why that's not working. Okay. It's totally not working. Oh, I don't really want to lose time on this because I was only going to prove. Actually, I was going to hopefully sketch this rather than. Let's actually do a new one on here. Let's see if we can. Here, these are all the previous Jamboards. We've used this for. Oh, I think it's my iOS app that's not working correctly. Just gonna spend 10 more seconds on this to try and get it working. And if it doesn't work, we'll just abandon it. Test. No, I think the iOS app isn't having a good day today. Or the syncing is off or something like that. Oh, there we go. We have got something running. Test. Okay, great. Can I see in here? I draw in here. Yes, amazing. Oh, it worked. Okay, cool. So let's scribble that out. Okay, so we've got sketch in the background here with our blank palette, and then we've got a Jamboard up, which is again just any sketching app will be fine. And if you like, the first thing I always start with for UI stuff is like a narrow viewport. And this just for me always goes into like personal taste stuff. But I personally find it a lot easier to start at the narrowest viewport, the narrowest kind of canvas that I have to put all of the elements I need on the screen, and then work wider and see how they flow out. And the reason that I really find that useful is because it helps me pin down the hierarchy of the things that need to be on the screen. And by hierarchy, I mean several things. Like, you mean the order in which they will appear on the screen, but also things like navigation. Let's say that you've got a menu that easily fits on a wide viewport, like it easily fits on, you know, across a top bar or down a side menu or something like that. If you need to hide that menu on mobile because you just don't think it's important enough, that tells you that you need to hide it rather than it being persistently visible. And also, how are you going to hide it? Where is it going to be and where do you need to click on it? Are all questions you have to answer immediately on mobile. And you can defer if you start working on desktop. You'll be like, oh, well, we've got this great, a simple example might be all your navigation is horizontal at the top. So you've got like right at the top site level navigation. Then you've got like something like projects, settings, things like that. And then within each project, you've then got another navigation that gives you 3 menus that are all neatly available horizontally on a wide viewport, like on a wide screen. When you come to mobile, you going to have the same 3 mechanisms? Like, you won't have, or maybe you will have 3 menu buttons on the right hand side, each of which collapse or show different menus. Or how are you gonna render that? How are you gonna represent it to users? Is a question you have to answer on mobile, and you can just defer it on if you just draw everything on the wide viewport. So that tends to be why I start there. It also helps you answer what you kind of want the user to do first on the page. So let's say that this was like our homepage. So we don't really want the user to do much on the homepage. This is our homepage at the moment. And you can see that just by messing around, by building kind of basic functionality, we've told ourselves what the most important things we care about, which is signing in and creating a new site. Like, those are the 2 things that we really care about. So on our homepage, we might say, okay, well, let's have, again, I'm hoping this is visible on the stream, but let's have, we might have a little logo in the top right. And maybe instead of having a menu button, we have a clear link to, maybe we have, or you're likely to have like about us and something like that. Like you usually do need some other stuff on a homepage. So let's say that you had a menu button of some sort here. Maybe it has menu on it or some other indicator. But then because you don't want to hide sign in all the time, you might actually have sign in here. And that tells you that because that's so important, you've raised the hierarchy of sign in. So you could have just put it in the menu. But if you know it's what 90% of people are going to do, you can immediately lift it to the left of the button or pull it up, or maybe make that the only button and then put the other navigation below. And what I really like about something like a Jamboard is that the cost of thinking these things through is so low. So if we want to change our mind, we can either just quickly sketch out an alternative next to it. So let's say we have a logo here. We have our little, ours is probably taller than that. And then we would have, let's say we go for one of those annoying, like just a triple line kind of burger thing. And we don't put a sign-in link. So that's way more minimalist. And you're like, okay, well, we can compare those two things. We would then likely have some sort of copy, I would guess, tell the visitor where they were and why they were there, or what they want to accomplish, however you're approaching things, like which kind of design philosophy you're kind of working around. And then the other thing that we had was this call to action, this kind of, create your site. So tell us what your name of your site is. And the other thing you might have is what imagery or photography or videography or whatever it is you're going to have as well. So let's assume we don't really have anything too snazzy. We could just say that we have, again, you don't really need to bother writing anything. You could just say, okay, well, I think it's going to be 2 lines, and then we're going to have this text box here and a button underneath. And or maybe is the button going to be to the side? Is it going to be underneath? And does that change based on the viewport? So let's say we have let's say we put it let's say we put it to the right will limit your width. So if you kind of like, these have got a gap between them here, this button and this text box have a gap between them. But if you join them, that's my loopback thing kicking in. If you join them and have create site as the button on an iPhone, you're losing a lot of space for the person to write in their site title. So let's say that here we would actually put them below each other. Can we zoom in a bit more on that? Yeah, okay, so this is my Jamboard. This is what we're sketching. So we would then have a text box here, nice and big, because it's really the only thing we care about them doing. And then they can type in that. These like lines here just represent text. We don't, and again, sketching is really helpful because you don't really care what it says. You don't have to worry about the actual copy at this point unless you want to. And then we're going to have our big button below. Again, that'll have some text on as well. And then you kind of got to answer the question of what else is on the rest of the page. Is there like promo nonsense and cool stuff like that? But even here, we've been able to get really quickly something together without having to think about any of the details of it. If we jump over to the other version, which I had to start with, which was our sketch option, immediately we would have had to start answering some questions. So let's say that we want to put in some, we've got these library that we got before from, I don't know where we downloaded it from, some sort of sketch handy resource library thing. So let's say we want to add in some text here. Cool. But we do want to change all these libraries to be the right typeface. So it's called Sophia Pro. And we kind of want to update. We could go through and update all the libraries if we wanted to, I think. Edit style and library. Yeah, we could go through and do them all there. Let's worry about that in a minute. So we can do that. And so here we want to say simple websites for your YouTube channel, or a simple website, or simple for YouTubers, you know, something like that. So over here we've got the little fixed width thing here where we can then pull that in. So what that's made us do is think about the copy. Again, we could have put lorem ipsum in, but or which is like dummy text for you know, so you don't have to write it. You'll see on that designers use it pretty regularly, so you don't have to think about the copy. But it starts to guide your eye as to how long the content can be and things like that. And also we've had to start thinking about the actual size of the text. So here I've picked 3XL from Tailwind sketch library, but we could have had 2XL or 3XL, and worrying about the font and things like that. So if you dive straight in at sketch, then you're thinking about other things that you're not thinking about if you're just sketching. And I'm aware of the irony between one being called sketch and the other one just sketching. So I basically pick between those two things depending on pretty much the mood I'm in, because you then have your other option, which is just go and build it like straight away, which I think is one of the big pitches of something like Tailwind. Because all of your CSS classes are already there, you don't necessarily have to go in and do a paper sketch or a Jamboard or concept or something like that, or a sketch file or Figma or anything like that, because the HTML is the CSS. You can just start straight away there. And the other thing that we can look at is their kind of pre-made components, which we touched on in the last stream. But I'm going to just hold that on for a second. Let's just go and start building and comparing the difference. So we've got loads of uncommitted stuff from last week. Let's not dwell on any of that stuff because I haven't tidied up the repo. Let's just go and static homepage. Cool. All right. So this is where we're going to get into the tailwind of it all, I think. So there's absolutely no formatting of anything on the actual page. We've just got this text here, nothing in a container or anything like that. Let me just bump this font size up even more. Sorry, it's probably a bit hard to read otherwise. And then we go straight into the form, which is our new site form. Okay, so let's say simple. So we want simple websites for YouTube channels. There we go, that'll do. You could even, I mean, you can make a simple website for your YouTube channel. There you go, that'd be even easier. So what did we have on this one? It was text 3XL. Actually, but it would be the H1 of this page, wouldn't it? So we can do that. But I think the headings in Tailwind are not like styled by default. I think we'd maybe added some in. I think we had done something in JavaScript style sheets headings. Yeah, okay. So I had done this so that H1 would be, this would be interesting. So this is text 4XL on H1, but if I actually add an H1 and put text 3XL, I wonder which one then wins. So I'm not quite sure of the hierarchy of that. So great. Okay, so what is this? That is 3XL, and that has overridden the default of the H1. Okay, cool. But the weight has stayed the same, so it's only the size that's been overridden. Okay, so you can do that pretty well in Tailwind. Okay, so here we want it centered. which is cool. So I had, can I put this browser tab? I can just make a new tab in here, can I? Put that in there, and then I can close this one. Just rename this Club UI, and then I can go and remove the other ones later that weren't working. Actually, let me put the link to this in. Can I change the link? So anyone with the link can view. Cool. So copy link, and then I want to go and put that in the YouTube thing before I forget, because I always say I'm going to do that and then I don't. Jamboard link. Right, that is now in there. So I have done what I said I was going to do. Cool. So text 3XL. Right, let's go over to here and go to our docs. Now this is where read the docs, try it in the browser, watch the screencasts. Okay. Just what's new in Tailwind, dark code, color extended, color paths, extended variants, extra wide breakpoint. So I think I just want to kind of try this first. So all we really want is for that to be centered and width constrained, really. So we just don't want one giant sentence all the way across the screen. And we could do that a bunch of different ways. So I'm trying to transpose writing the CSS into doing it in Tailwind. So I would say we could have just a div with the max width on it, and then it had margin auto that was set. Or we could make, if we wanted to make it part of the other stuff, we could put a flex container around all of them and have that one. Yeah, I mean, it's its own thing. I don't think it needs to relate to anything else. It depends on what the imagery, if we set a photo around it or something like that. But we don't need anything snazzy there. So, okay, so we want to, we don't need a div around it. That heading can do all of the work that we need it to do. So let's say, I've forgotten all of this every time I think this is the problem though, so I don't use it enough. So margin auto is like MX auto or something. Yeah, there was one. That's top and bottom. Yeah, because it was top and so MX will be x-axis auto, so that would be margin right and margin left. So that'd be MX auto. So I think you've just got to learn this syntax, but then that will only see what that does. Yeah, because the actual text align isn't centered. Oh, it's also full width, so it doesn't matter. Okay, so how do we limit the width? And I can't remember. So max width. Right, okay, and everything in Tailwind has these like preset values that are either right, okay, so these, I don't want to use these ones because screen dash is obviously for viewport. So what I'm assuming is for viewport size. So I think I just want the generic ones which are in relative, measured in relative elements. So like this, I guess. I think that's another problem. I don't really have a good sense. So, okay, let's just pick one. And I guess the good thing is I can just do it here. Right, okay, so I can do it here. And then I want the text align to be center. Yeah, you must just get really good at text center, at remembering these. So once you use it all the time, it would be all of your... oh, I missed the other one out that I'd added. And that one's too wide, actually. So can I go... let's just say this one. Oops, this one. Great. Okay, so make a simple website for your YouTube channel. Cool. Okay, so that's now everything we need. And what we would want is some padding on it so that when it wraps, we don't get it right up to these edges here. So we can look, I think there was like, okay, so come on, let's be logical. It was like, it would be PX, because that's padding x-axis. And then it will be like a number. Oh, but you've got to leave this wide enough to have the menu on that. Okay. All right. In that case, we should do this. So we can adjust the width of this viewport without adjusting the width of the browser. Then we can pull the browser over to be wider so that we don't lose our menu on Tailwind. Right. I've already forgotten what I was looking for. Padding. Okay. So Command K. I want padding. Add horizontal padding. PX dash and then just a number. Great. Okay, so let's say, well, we can move this over to here. I think we can just bump this down a little on this side because it's only be quite that big. And we can do PX 8. That's too high. Okay. What are the numbers? How do they go up? Is it like Fibonacci style or something like that? No, that's another thing. Are they always consistent? So it goes up in 0.5s up till you get to 4. Okay. So X 4. Yeah, that's, I don't really care. Yeah, PX 4. So it'd be ideal if we could get this kind of like real-time saving, but I'm not too fussed about that. I wonder if there's like a preferred ordering of Tailwind CSS classes. Are they just grouped by prefix? Headwind is an opinionated Tailwind. I mean, bump the font up. Headwind is an opinionated Tailwind CSS class sorter for Visual Studio Code. It enforces consistent order of your classes. Here we go. So someone's obviously thought about that and got very frustrated by it and built an entire plugin for it. Headwind runs on save, will remove duplicate classes, and can even sort entire workspaces. Okay. You can install it via the VS Code Marketplace. Blah, blah, blah. Customization. Headwind ships with a default class order located in package.json. You can edit this and other settings to your liking on the extension settings page. An object with language IDs as keys and their values determine their regex. This seems... I'm just really skimming through that really quickly, but I'm guessing this is probably a good idea so that you, if you're learning all of these class names, then at least having them in a consistent order would be helpful so that you don't, you read HTML, you get really used to reading HTML. And if you knew that you're like, oh, I care about the padding of this thing. Where do I find that visually, especially if you've got one of these long ones that we were talking about the other week, these kind of long lines of CSS classes. Okay, let's put this in. Let's see what this does. Get it from the VS Code Marketplace. Okay. And install. This extension is enabled globally. So this is the order we've got at the moment. I'm going to copy it. And then let's hit save. Ooh, okay. Just jumped them all around. Great. I like that. Now I never have to think about that again. I don't know how it decides what to order them. I guess I will care about that at some point in the future. But for now, I can just chuck them on and let the plugin sort them. Cool. Oh, okay. Well, hang on. Let me be diligent and put the link to that in the YouTube video thing as well, because I've already forgotten what it's called. Headwind. Just gonna copy this over onto there as well, so that people can take a look at what they care about. Great. Okay. Let's jump back here. We can close this now. Yes, we can see that this is definitely slower. So of the three where we're kind of just like sketching out on paper or on like Jamboard or something like that, super quick, really lightweight decision making. Then into Sketch, where you have to commit to some things, but you're kind of playing in a different playground. And then the HTML itself, for me, takes probably, it takes longer, but it's just a different thinking process. But obviously you then end up with the final result. The downside I find with it is that I then generally get distracted by going off into code stuff, like the ordering of the CSS classes and random other stuff like functionality stuff. Whereas if you're in Sketch or drawing, I just don't find that a problem. Like because you're not tempted to leave and go and do something else. So cool. So this is too large. This text is too large down at the smaller viewport sizes. So that, and probably not wide enough when we get right up to here. So let's make this responsive. So this is this whole idea of adding these prefixes in. So the size is text 3L. And we can add in a prefix here. And add in like that. We should see this change at some point. No, okay. MD-P. Oh, okay, I'm in the wrong one, sorry. So text typography, font size. Responsive. MD text LG. To control the font size at a specific breakpoint, use MD text. It's large. Okay. Is that not what I'm doing, or am I not noticing it change? Or am I not realizing where MD kicks in? So what is? So we have MD, and what else have we got? SM. Small, medium, large, XL, SM, MD, LG. So this is where I'm really interested in the difference between text 3 is I think is good morning, by the way. Hello. So someone's in the chat, super helpful. I think it's the other way around. Text 3L is on mobile. And then MD text 2L is applied on MD and upwards. Yeah, so I just couldn't. Thank you for that. I couldn't see it change at all. Is it that I'm not sure when MD actually kicks in? Oh, there we go. Yeah, I hadn't gone wide enough. Safari doesn't let you go over here. Yep. So there we can see that kicking in there. So that must be. Safari also doesn't give you the little viewport width in the top right, which would be super helpful. How do you know in Safari how wide the viewport is? Interesting. It's probably one of the many nested layers of settings. Okay, cool. So then I've added in... Oh, is that because I'd added in SM text 2XL? Hang on, maybe I screwed that up. Was that me just changing it as to why that one then worked? So after SM... or as of SM and up, it will go smaller. I suppose we could just look in those docs. Damn it. Just look in those docs. 640 and up should be small. Oh, sorry, it's small. And that should then be... Oh, let's do it in here because I'm not entirely convinced that Safari's helping me out there. So let's say the smallest one we want it to be is Okay, they've all moved around. So we just want it to be like text. Oh man, you really have to memorize these. Okay, that's the bit I was missing. That's why I was bumping into this. I don't have these to hand. So every time I want to do something. Wait, hang on. So is there like a thing that can give me these? Is it like IntelliSense for that? Because I know what I want. I want text, and I just want to see my other options. Tailwind VS Code. Tailwind CSS IntelliSense. That's exactly what I was looking for. Okay, cool. So intelligent Tailwind CSS tooling for VS Code. Because presumably there's only so many. Like, it's not, and they're predefined up front because you've said in your config what you're doing. It's not like your code where you could potentially have like one of the hard things for IntelliSense in Rails is like you could be using meta programming to generate class names and stuff like that. And so your IntelliSense is like, oh, anything could be anything, and you can monkey around with everything. God knows what you've done. Good luck. And Visual Code is basically like, here's some stuff you've got open in other tabs. Good luck. Whereas presumably with Tailwind and any normal computing like any other computing language, you can say, well, I know what this is. Here's a list of them. So even if you added in like, this is teal, but if you added in like some random color, it would know from its config and just generate that CSS anyway. Okay, so let's just install this because I like the idea of that. Because jumping back and forth is actually the painful part. Okay, painful is pretty extreme. I didn't really, so now I know that. So the text was too large in the smallest viewport. So we want to pick a smaller one to start with. So we know, okay, here we go. So now we've got text. Right, that's actually incredibly helpful because that was the most annoying thing is like, what is the syntax? Like earlier on when I knew it was PX because I knew it was padding. I guessed it could have been padding, could have been PD or PA or something. But I remembered that padding I think was PX because we had just looked up the margin one was likely to be MX because it's on the X axis, and then a number, but I couldn't remember what the numbers were. So you then have to jump over to the docs to get the right number. So this is super useful. All I need is the first character or maybe the first two, and then everything else I can just pick from a list. Cool. So what were we at? We were at 3. Let's say we still want it to be super big. So let's start with XL, and then what was it? 640 was small, and that could go up to like text to 2XL. I don't know, and then maybe from large, which I can't remember what it was, let's go even bigger and say that's 4XL. Just made all that up. But once you get more confident and memorize these, you could do those in, you could just do those in the browser while you're playing with it. You could do that visually. Also, this is interesting. So I've installed that reordering thing. And so it's put the first text size here, then text center. I can only assume that what this is doing for me is grouping them by viewport, which is, I'm assuming, I don't know, but I'm assuming it's going to say everything with a text prefix goes together, then everything with an SM prefix goes together. So let's say that we wanted to change the padding at this viewport. So at small, we suddenly wanted to have more padding. And my IntelliSense thing is no longer... Oh, okay. Takes a while to kick in. Okay, fine. That's good. Good to know. So that's 7. So then we press save. Yeah, okay, good to know. So it doesn't group, this plugin thing that we've installed into VS Code doesn't group by like padding and text and stuff like that. It groups by viewport and then by the actual property. So here you can see you've got padding. So the no prefix and anything here. I'm hoping this is big enough, but I want it to wrap. So we've got, let's just try and bump the font size up and move over. So here, no prefix on any of these, and the prefix is this SM colon, MD colon, that stuff. So they're all grouped, and then they're grouped in order. So we've got PX, which is padding, and then after it is the text. So then they're grouped. We've got SM here. These are the small viewport stuff, and that's padding, and text comes after it as well. And then LG. So I'm guessing if we added LGPX, whatever, LGPX, they eventually kick in. Oh, okay. Maybe it's the triggering text. Maybe it's not the speed. It's the point at which that thing kicks in. So maybe this one has no padding because we know it's going to be limited, so we won't get there. And we can just say PX0. We can turn that off. So we assume that this is now going to jump to here because it will be always before the text, but it will be grouped with it because of the prefix. Which has not happened. It's gone there. Okay, that assumption was totally wrong. That's harder to. So what is happening there then? Like a 1? No, it's kept it there again. Okay. That one feels confusing to me. So the plugin said it was an opinionated orderer, but I don't know what its opinion is. So we've got padding PX4 here, then large PX1, small PX7, but then another large attribute over here. So it's not ordering by the prefix or the attribute. That seems... let's go and have a look at what that was actually doing. VS Code, CSS, can't remember what it was called, Tailwind ordering? Okay, cool. So I didn't actually read what it was going to do, I just let it do it. Classic regex, Okay, doesn't seem to say what its actual... what the order it's doing it is. Okay, so we'd have to dig into that if we really cared too much about that, which is fair enough. Or we could write our own regex if we cared about that. Sort individual files, but any workspaces can be... Any breakpoints or unknown classes will be moved to the end of the class lists, while duplicate classes will be... any breakpoint... Oh, does that mean unknown breakpoints? Oh, it ships with a default order pack in here. Oh, it actually literally has... Oh, wow. It actually just literally has an order. Oh, you can totally go in and do... Oh, wow. When I said they were... It didn't... Yeah, okay. And then are these prefixed as well with the... Wow, okay. I'm still not sure I understand why mine aren't... If they're grouped by this, wouldn't everything with PX be grouped together? I don't really care enough about this to spend too much time on it, but that's interesting. We're trying to learn Tailwind and build our UI. That's, it's kind of vaguely interesting. Yeah, anyway, I've just let's crack on. Let's see what actually comes out of what we've saved, because I've forgotten what we saved. Okay, so that's now too small. But that, so it's not really changing there. What's that? Probably I think we might want to jump to Let's just jump this out to its own window. Yeah. So what is that? So that's now getting SM text to Excel. So why is it not getting LG text for Excel? Is it literally just not wide enough? How wide does that have to be? What was LG? LG was 1024? Have I got conflicting ones here? So LG text dash for Excel, I think should be kicking in on that. Maybe a typo or something. And then text XL below 640. So let's go. Actually, I don't know. Safari has like a really. Yeah, I don't actually know what that is. Okay, but I'm not sure why we're not getting the large one. We'll save this. LG text for Excel, LG PX0. Are we getting the LG PX0? Is it not saving properly or something? LG PX0. No, I can't see that on here either. I think something's not kicking in. So on that heading. That's SMPX7. So none of the LGs. Wait, what? So none of the LGs. Oh, is LG not the correct prefix? Am I screwing that up? No, LG is anything over 1024. Okay, let's just try doing that here. So let's do something like LG. Oh, what gives it like a red background color or something silly that we can't ignore? Background color. No background color? There we go, background color. BG red. Here we go, BG red 500. So at large, we want this. No, I'm going to do it in the browser. So LG. Okay, so LG stuff isn't kicking in. Have we put in something incorrect before it? That's breaking that. BG red 500. Yeah, just putting a red background for something. If you are if you haven't ever built a UI from scratch, personally, I find a lot of putting red backgrounds, red borders, and then if you're trying to work out how to get things to fit together, you've got like a blue one, a green one, a red one, and like you're just trying to make them fit together. Okay, so I'm not 100% sure why I'm not getting a red background or any red. Is it like, is it some sort of caching thing? But there's just a style sheet. There's nothing, like it's already been generated. It's not changing there either. Oh, do I have some sort of local config where I'm not generating LG things? Have I messed with the defaults? We didn't do anything with the defaults though. So do we have some sort of config for Tailwind in... don't think we really messed with that in the thing. That's a bunch of stuff for tricks, which we did. That's our one button. And then here we've got our... this, that could be breaking it maybe. And then we would have Tailwind config.json. So this is the thing to add in our custom font that we talked about. And this was the Tailwind forms that we've talked. So this is a pretty vanilla installation. So I actually don't even know how to, I'm assuming we can mess with those viewports, but I'm not 100% sure how we would. And again, let's make sure I'm not screwing it up. So let's say in here on the Tailwind site, we can then do LGBG red 500. Oh, is it? Okay, so that's not kicking either. So this is obviously me screwing this up. Could it be Safari? Okay, I'm open to that option. Hang on, let me, don't really use Chrome on this. I'm not sure what's going to pop up. I'm just going to pop the other screen over for a second in case my Chrome pops up with something else in it. Just give me 2 seconds. I will be back. Waiting for Chrome to open. No, Chrome opens empty, which is all good. Okay, so let me just pop this. Hang on, I'll be back in 2 seconds. Don't panic. Cool. Okay, so then let's bring this back. Okay, so now we got this in Chrome, which at least is doing some stuff. Okay, cool. So then let's... right, so there we've got our... so there you can actually see the size of the viewport. Great. And there we have got our smaller font size. And what I was saying was in Safari, that wasn't happening. So let's pull our little inspector back into the browser, make this narrower so we can match the Chrome one behind it, which is this thing down here, this little thing in the bottom left. Right. So, right. What? So it's, so yeah, good shout. So yeah, it's the browser. But why? And also, is that my development environment? Is that a cache somewhere? But I haven't changed any of the CSS. I've changed the HTML that renders the CSS. But it also didn't happen in the docs. So when I added LG 500 here, that didn't happen. But if we do this and then go over to here, then open a tab and go to here. So I'm literally just recreating the same behavior. Oh, is it the zoom setting? No. That was optimistic though. I was excited. So let's do the same thing here. Let's zoomed in a little bit and then open this. We can just pop this down to the bottom. Color what's new, and then in this element here we can add in LG whatever it was, BG red 500. Oh, well, I guess I must be screwing this up somehow. So I'm not really sure why we have a difference between Safari and Chrome. So let's Google that first. So Tailwind Safari development. Tailwind CSS, the awesome and annoying. Here we go. There's something about Safari in here. So yeah, this is really, like, I know we're not doing too much on the UI. We're doing more Tailwind stuff than actually bothering to develop the UI, but this is kind of what I wanted to get into. And I know we're not in Rails land or anything, but I don't know, we're learning stuff, and that's good. The other thing that I think is interesting here is that a lot of the pitches of these frameworks, like Bootstrap and Foundation, or the bajillion of them, is often this increase in productivity that you get. But this is a really good example of like the high, I don't know about relatively high upfront cost you might have to pay to move into that framework. And it's also something to bear in mind if you're ever looking at taking on contract work or anything like that. You might have worked in Rails before, but if that Rails project, there's a load of UI stuff and they're using, a good example is like Haml and Slim and all those type of markup languages versus ERB. And then also on top of that, Tailwind versus Bootstrap versus their own custom thing, is that the same job in the same framework is not the same between different projects. So, and I think as a beginner, you don't have enough exposure to that to judge it, or why you would like factor that into a contract or something like that, or the questions you would ask before taking a job or taking a contract or something. You'd be like, what do you actually like do with Rails? Okay, right. Something in here. Let's just search for the word Safari because this looks like a really long post. No, this is not it because it's just talking about things that are dash web prefix, which is not that helpful. Okay, that's not what I was looking for. Again, just doing full network in Safari seems to. Okay, so no, I'm not sure if this. Is it because of like is it that combination of just me adding LG and then trying to put a red background on something? If we try and put a red background on something else, or not trying to put the red background. If we try and like do something else altogether, close that already. So let's refresh this, and then here say LG. Is that text? Is that really 4XL? Was it on 6XL? Okay, cool. So that works. Okay, so let's do that on Safari. Is that alone kicking in? Not really sure what I'm trying to debug here, to be honest. No, it just doesn't change size. What? What happens if we take out all of the things that aren't text related? Text size related. Is that getting larger? I don't think so. No. And if we just... So that is currently showing as SM text 2XL. And if we were to pull this out, that's now text XL. Fine. But we're at the LG viewport size and it doesn't get any bigger. Is it because of the zoom settings we're at? Okay, I think we might be onto a winner there. Right, holy shit, it's the different way they handle zoom settings. Okay, right, okay, that's interesting. So for the stream, I zoom my Safari in. And then it's never hitting the large viewport size. Whereas does Chrome do the same thing? Sorry, that's totally me scrolling. This is super useful to know, I guess. Right, so you're not actually ever hitting. But then why wasn't I getting the small one? Oh, it wasn't small because I was so zoomed in, it looked as though. Right, sorry, that's totally me screwing up. Okay, well, that's super useful to know because I use zoom a bunch when like doing what is this going to be like for people who have accessibility issues and things like that. So it's good to know that when you're working on it, be careful to reset your zoom. It's also going to make it really small for the stream, which is going to be annoying, but let's not dwell on that. So if I reset the zoom, and this is now 4XL, but now if I do 6XL, gets bigger. Okay, great. So now it just takes a while. Cool. Okay, right. Sorry about that total diversion that we didn't need to take, but still we've done it. We've come out the other side with more knowledge, and I think we're all relieved that's over. Okay. It would be... Yeah, it's interesting that the IntelliSense needs you to kick in if you kill a character. So if you delete a character halfway through the piece of text, it doesn't seem to kick in, and then I don't know what it takes to get it back up. I think you have to come back to here. Yeah, that would maybe affect my editing of that. Okay, so then I think that the original XL was then possibly a bit too small. So we could have 2XL, and then SM could be... See, now I just can't remember the numbers. 3? I've got to get it back to here. Okay, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, so these are just sequential. So it was the ones earlier with where we were doing the point stuff that wasn't sequential. So text is sequential. Spacings are relative, I would guess. Okay, that's worth remembering. Okay, so we can take Chrome away now, really, because I only need one to work. Okay, great. And now we can see what we're playing with. So the width limit that we've applied here is now way too narrow because it looks silly. So we could maybe come down here. That one would be sequential, and then this one is max width large, but here we're going to have it large max width. No, you don't get anything. You've got to go back to here. Max width 3XL. Great. Let's make a simple website for your YouTube channel, and then how does that scale down? Not well. And so, okay. So this is really useful. This would be the Tailwind muscle that you would exercise. But even if you were working, I suppose, with like, so if I was writing this as let's say it was like a BEM, which is like block element modifier syntax, which I actually do enjoy using. I find pretty helpful for CSS. I think I would have. We talked about starting at that kind of narrow viewport width, and then designing upwards. The CSS at the top of my Sass would be my defaults for the mobile view, and then I would grow as they went up, and then I'd probably have variables for all the brandy stuff and the sizes and everything, similar to Tailwind, basically. Like you would have Sass variables for everything needed, so it'd be like at media, screen, medium, or whatever is, similar syntax depending on what you're using. But I would probably have some sort of muscle memory for be like, oh, okay, well, I know roughly what that is. So this is the work of Tailwind of building that up and being like, oh, well, I picked some arbitrary numbers, but as I did it more and more, I would guess that was too big a jump to go from there, which is still probably a bit too small. So this could be 3. And then I would need a medium in here, I guess. Small. And it doesn't actually matter where I put it because that thing is going to... and then this one could just, that's 3. This one could be 5XL. Yeah, okay. But I think think that's where I start to then bump into what I suppose is the benefit and the cost of, not cost because you could add it in, I guess, of Tailwind, which is you've only got those limited viewports, but very often in like cool home pages, you want to tweak just to this element where it's like, oh, between these two viewports there's actually like an orphaned word, or widowed, is it rather than orphaned? Can't remember which one's which. But you then can start to just make small tweaks. But I guess what Tailwind is trying to drill you down to is like, you probably don't need to stick to the framework. We've got you. Being consistent is more important than having all of those things everywhere, which is fine. I can probably get on board with that. And you could still write, like you could still have like right at the start here, you could be like home page heading main CTA or something like that, and that could then be your main CTA. That could be your kind of BEM syntax style thing where you could add in a very specific bit of override, but I'm guessing you probably don't want to. If you really are leaning into Tailwind, you probably only really want to use that sparingly if you know why, because you're just going to start rubbing against the grain of the framework, I would guess. All right, so we're going to spend a bit of time on this because this is the point. Actually, I think I might jump back to Chrome because I don't know why Safari just won't go any narrower. And actually, it has that stupid. Actually, let's use the tool as the tool is intended. So no, let's go out of Chrome. It has that this thing, which I keep forgetting about. My phone. Okay. So this is Safari's responsive design mode. And so it gives you, it's really, so it's similar to Chrome's in that you can pick specific devices, but then also that you do still get the same little thing here. So you don't need to switch to Chrome. Okay, so that's probably not too bad. So that's where we can see our padding kicking in that we added earlier, because we didn't want to get the M was right up against the edge of the screen. And then so we could probably go a bit bigger there. Oh, and actually this does answer my question earlier of how the hell do you know how wide the viewport is? This tool tells you, whereas earlier I was just resizing it. So yeah, sorry, that's my bad for not remembering to jump into this. So what's MD then? Oh no, it was like responsive, wasn't it here? 768. So this is all SM. All SM. Yeah, that's interesting. So that probably, I wonder if they have any classes that are like what's the one where it's like the font size, font size itself is percentages of viewport, so it stays fixed and it breaks all of the zooming. VW, I think it's like text as VW elements or something. So Tailwind text VW. So stuff in there, responsive font sizes plugin. Yeah, okay, so there's people doing stuff like that. So you can, so in CSS, you can basically have the font size stay relative to the viewport. But the last time I did it, there was accessibility issues, I think, because as you zoomed, it didn't change size, but it looked cool if you didn't really follow the accessibility helpful stuff. It was really cool for making it like stay. You didn't need to worry about the word wrapping because it would always stay correct in relation to the width of the viewport. Yeah, okay, cool. Cool. Okay, so let's try and do this part now. So here we're gonna have this as vertically stacked for mobile, and then at some point we can drop it out to be horizontal like this, because we've got the room then. So let's take a look at how we're going to do that. So I wonder if we can we make it even more complex so that when you get to the horizontal version, these actually join? Like, I wonder how hard that stuff is. So that's something that you would just kind of code into your normal CSS, where you would, as you got to a certain viewport, you would change the flex box to go as a row, and then you would have the spacing between them collapse, chop off the corners because you need them to sit flush with each other, and maybe adjust the shadows and stuff so they look like one unit rather than two individual ones. Just a few jobs to do. But I couldn't even get these when we were doing these previously. I couldn't even get them to be the same height really easily. So let's try and solve that one, because I think that'll be another cool thing to do in Tailwind. So how the hell do we do that? Right. Let's let's just do the whole thing within the form for now, because that'll just help us make the make everything easier to see. So this can be our flex container. Flex? Just not. This is the problem. I'm just starting from scratch every time when you don't know it. Okay, yeah, div flex. Yeah, that was I dragged that memory from somewhere. Then we want, come on, our two kind of children. By the way, this isn't like a tutorial. Like, I don't know if this is the right way to go about this. I'm just doing it. Probably should have mentioned that at the start. If anyone was like, oh, this guy uses Tailwind. No, I think you'd only have to watch a few minutes of this to realize that's not the case. So we want it to be... Let's go back up to here. So we want it to be... Is it flex layout? Flex direction. Here we go. So we want it to be flex col to start with. That's on the parent. And then at some point we want it to go up into flex row. So that should actually be pretty visible pretty quickly. Yeah, okay. And what happens if you just lower that to... Yeah, it probably only needs to be there. So if you add in new viewports, presumably you are increasing the amount of actual CSS you send over the wire to clients, because you... Oh, here we go. Sorry, try flex col and space spicy stuff. It is spicy stuff. So if I add in like, I don't know what's between small and medium, like mini, so like MN or something like that, presumably I'm increasing the amount of CSS I ship over the wire, because the finally rendered CSS needs to contain all of the variants of that, but then it uses the purge stuff so that if I don't actually use it, it doesn't render it out, right? So the theory, it shouldn't do. So I should be able to add a couple more viewports if I wanted more flexibility, and in theory, not ship phenomenally more code. That would be kind of interesting to see on a large project, and how complex that is. Yeah, I'm just trying to think that through. This is fine for now. So we've got this and this. Okay, so yeah, so David mentioned try flex call and space Y. So space Y will be the gap that we have between. Okay, so then after we're gonna in SM we're gonna put up to here, and then so he's saying space. Space Y. Okay, so that's. Okay. So this is. What's this dash dash TW space Y reverse? Oh, is that the? Oh, okay. That's setting the variable. Okay, cool. Sorry. Right. Okay. And so these then give you space Y. Presumably, you then get space X. Space Y 56 there. Then further down. So this is negative space. Right, okay, so there's a minus in front of it. I got a bit lost as to why there was two, so then you could have minus space. Okay, fine. Cool. So we want, after a certain point, we want space X because we want to the space between them disappear. I don't actually know if we'd added any space. Oh no, there isn't any space there to start with, so it doesn't really matter. Cool. Okay, so space Y here would be. Oh, so I'm adding that to the flex container, but that's margin. The space Y is using margin, so that's not where I want to add that. So, like yeah, you could decide where you want to add that. I'm guessing. So here we could say space Y1. That should just move down a bit. I don't want that to collapse. Is space Y1 not correct? Space Y1. It's not coming up at all on that. Getting no margin on that at all. If I just try. Okay, so yeah, if I add on the parent container, but I only, okay, so. Right, okay. Okay, so there I've got... Oh, okay. It creates okay, so this is David on the chat. It creates margin between child elements. Oh shit, it's in the right, it's there. Okay, cool. Sorry. Okay, I missed that. I wondered why it wasn't. So space between is for controlling the space between child elements. Okay. Right. Okay. Okay. Sorry. So thank you so much for helping out. I've been there for about 3 hours. Saw that. Okay, great. So space you do apply to the parent, and it's Tailwind that is taking care of adding in the stuff. So if we actually look at the CSS that's being generated, bump the font size up here. So here, I've immediately lost where that was actually being rendered out. Space Y1. Totally lost where that was actually being rendered out. It had like oh, there. There. Why wasn't that there a minute ago? Am I going crazy? So I'm guessing you probably recognize the syntax, but in case you don't, so what the space Y1 is actually rendering out is the children selector in CSS, and then it's got not hidden, which I guess is in case there's a bunch of hidden elements inside that you don't want to put space between. And then the tilde is siblings, I think. I can't remember. Yeah, okay, so it's taking care of that for you. So you would have to do that yourself. If you were writing your own CSS, you would then have to think about the children or adding it to the actual elements themselves, which presumably I can do. I just don't add space. I could add either my or whatever it is to get bottom B, I'm assuming, or bot, something like that. Okay, so and a reason why there's a interesting difference. Oh, so hang on, that's interesting. So why don't I have margin at the top and bottom there? Is there like a last child thing with the margin bottom 0? Why do I only have... Yeah, that's interesting. How do I not have anything on the top and bottom of those? So this one I have... only margin top. But I don't have top or bottom on this one, which I'm assuming is coming from the space CSS, but I don't see that when rendered here because it's not affecting this element. It's only affecting the children, but I don't see it on the top one. So presumably there's something in the actual CSS, which I'm not going to go through now. Okay, that's super interesting. So I don't suffer the penalty of having to do the logic myself of not including. So if I just put on parent, hey, I want to add to the children some top margin and some bottom margin to each one, I would also have to care about not including the top on the first item and the bottom on the last item. And I'd have to care about that myself, whereas that's being taken care of here as well. Okay, sorry, that was again another long walk to get nowhere, but I'm learning a lot, so. Cool, so in that case, we actually don't need anything on there at the moment. We can increase that, so SM space. Like 2. I usually add margins on the div holding the space. Why? Okay, so if you needed top and bottom, okay, you could add them there as well. Okay, thank you so much. So flex scroll space Y2. Flex row. So then we want. We've said about no space there. But I don't actually know if we need that because there wouldn't be any. I think there we're turning off something that doesn't exist. So I think that can go. Yeah. Okay, so then how do we... Why aren't these the same size? Because that's something that I can't remember that we were messing around with. And... Oh, maybe they are now. Maybe they're now just offset. So we were looking at how to make an apply work. That's the only thing I remember as to how we made that button. Oh, well, clearly we didn't bother to make it work with that because it's there. I think we now have a BTN apply, but we obviously haven't used that here. So when these are next to each other, we want them to sit alongside each other. So we can do... Oh, that one has got... Oh, no, okay. We need to then turn that off for this viewport. Okay. So then we just don't need... So you have still got that notion of like turning things on in the narrower viewports, then needing to turn them off or modify them in the higher ones. So you're just thinking of it in terms of if you set it here, you might need to unset or reset it here. So presumably now if we go back... Oh, amazing. Okay, well, we've solved the how do we... And now they're the same size. Were they... Oh, okay. Okay, cool. So it's... So they weren't the same size at a certain viewport. And the reason for that is because the button has got something on it in... So if I save this, are these... So I don't really understand how these are being grouped because I don't find this particularly helpful. So here's... These are all mixed in a really weird way. I don't find that a helpful order. I would like I don't know if this is just me being crazy, but like I would prefer it to either have attributes, then viewports, which I think is the one what I would lean towards, and then maybe like some of these have like hover and stuff in them. So even that, I would like it to be like the hover state for the narrowest viewport, then a hover state for the medium, large, whatever. This is hard to find. Okay, so I just want to turn off the one where it goes big, which I guess is padding, probably. This one. Oh, this is probably one where I would do it in the browser because visually it wasn't that one. So it'll be something like... Is it not the padding? Is that not the actual thing that's driving the size of the button? Yeah, padding 16. So it'd be P... XLPX4? MDPX5. Nope. Okay. It's some of these. The text size. Okay. So what was that? That was the the actual font size. So that was MD text LG. Is it like a combination of all of these that's making a change? Okay, and then it's the padding as well. But presumably I do these right. Okay, so now they're the same height, but presumably I do these in conjunction with this text field. So if I do want them to grow together, I just need to add the same changes to the other one. So let's say that we're now not happy. So let's make this narrower. Okay, so that, fine. We can center that in a minute. Fine. They're all centered. Great, then it jumps up. That's fine for that size. And then we want to get to 768. And we want these to get physically larger. Okay. So, and what was it I just added? MD is a 768 and it was text. See, now I'm not getting my, oh, right. Now I'm in ERB. So presumably I don't get my VS Code helper anymore. Okay, cool. So now I might just sneak up here and type it in so that I can, it was something like text. Oh, I've already forgotten. It was like text large or something. I don't even know what the default is. Okay, so I think what I'm coming to is like, this was just me. Oh, and these won't be, right, that's why these won't be reordered properly as well, because presumably the other thing won't work with ERB as well. Okay, so you have to sacrifice that. Well, in that case, I would probably turn off the ordering altogether and do it myself and do it by eye and then try and enforce that. I mean, yourself, I mean, you could try and get that plugin to work with ERB, I guess. Okay, so let's, so what I add, MD text LG. Oh yeah, now I'm just chucking it anywhere because these aren't going to reorder. Okay, great. Okay, so they have not resized the same. Let's try to zoom there. So has one got a padding change as well? MDPX5. Okay, so then, okay, this one here. So let's add that in. Oops. Is that the same? No, of course, because it's X. Yeah, I'm kind of just copying things without really reading them. So it's PY that I probably care about, or is it just the font size that I care about? So it's not PX, that's not it. And has this got anything that's PY? PY3. And that's just on the root level. So are they the same size? They're like a pixel off, right? Oh, god damn it. Look at what, can I just zoom then? What? Did that just crash? That totally just crashed. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that tab just crashed. Okay, so they're not the same size there now. Right, okay, I've totally broken that. Is it because they have different? Yeah, these are totally different. I'd be better starting from scratch and making them consistent as they go up. So these can all come to the front. Sorry about this. This is just me. Oh, I don't know if I'm sorry about this. This is kind of what we're supposed to be doing, I think. This is the work. Border, rounded MD, PY3. So then... yeah, so I would do it attributes first, modifiers, then viewports. So text white would come to the front, all of this. Oh my god, this zoom level, I won't let me grab my text white fonts. Anything without a viewport would come to the front. Oh yeah, you can see I think I've duplicated some of these already. So I think I've got PY3 and PY... oh no, that's PX. And then I would work out what order I wanted these in. Even alphabetical would be more helpful. And then you just mandate it, I guess. I wonder what you could do is select some. Could you select some text and then run the plugin over that? Like over that selected text, you could be like, yeah, and it could just take the selected text rather than trying to do the file. So here we've got py3, so that matches this one. Border, I don't know what border does, adds a border. Rounded MD, but this one has got rounded LG. So let's make that MD as well, so we've got the same size. py3 matches. Don't really need to care about the px, because that's just the x-axis. Then MD is going to text LG. So we even want these to be in order, so XL would want to be at the end. XL, PX4, and XL text base. Okay. Have I improved that in any way? Yeah, I've moved that. Okay, so why are these different sizes? Is it the font size? Or is it just the... Okay, so that one has the div is the right size. But this isn't filling it. And so do we actually need to make this like... No, okay. Do we... Actually not 100% sure on that one. Is that what's the best practice here? Or are we like... Are they to follow the size of that container, which is always... Yeah, tricky cross-browser because they all render things differently sometimes. Okay, it'd be interesting to know how to get those the same size. What I was actually thought, or something I forgot, we've mentioned earlier, but forgot to actually look at, is all of the pre-made stuff, which we touched on last time we streamed this. But now that we're really deep in it, I think it'd be more fun to look at. I'm just going to zoom out on this because I think there's a bunch of stuff. So presumably there's like examples of this already working. There's like... it was like pre-made components or something like that. And forms is what we care about because we want a text input next to a button, which I think will be pretty common. Ready-made components. I think it's this stuff. I think this is what we looked at last time. Yeah, and then I think there's like freebies that we could get, free samples. And that's what we had looked at before. I'm generally just looking for where the button is next to the text input. Just so we can lift the code. They don't have any. Oh no. Wait, is that why? Is that why they don't have any? Because they don't line up? No. Because they have this. This is... Oh no, that's not an input though, is it? Because we've used this. So we use this on the next step in the form when we did our quick dive. Okay, let's Tailwind input submit height. I'm basically just want to find something I can copy and paste quickly. Input is 1 pixel taller. I apply a different line of height explicitly, at least the 1.25 option. Easier to get the same. Okay, so is it the line height between these two? Okay, so and is it the line height on the so that's line height 1.75. That's 1.5. Okay, so that's text, and that's text dash based, and that's text LG. Right, and that sets the font size and the line height. And what is in this here? This issue here is setting the line height explicitly to make sure the font size. So leading height. So what does leading get us? Okay, so this is interesting. This is like stuff that you would just. So we want like leading 7 on both. No, I'd want it here and here. So that then presumably overrides it. No, it doesn't. It gets overridden by the text size. Oh no, they're the same anyway. So that's 175. That's now 175. No, that's now 1.5 because text base overrides. Okay, so actually we want XL leading 7 to set it explicitly at that viewport width. Yes. Okay, great. Cool. Okay, so is that the same or is that a pixel off? This is going to crash again. That's not the same either. Is it because the border is adding 2 pixels? Is that where we're losing the... if we lose... What did we have? One that's just called border? It's actually adding 2... No, maybe they are the same. Oh, they are the same height. There's just that button. The element is the same height. Oh, it's the same thing. It's the input that's not. And the input is 175 line height. 175 line height. It's the same. Padding is 0.75. Can't see what the padding is on this one. So why does this one not have the PY set? Oh, 0.75 it does. P at 3, so that's 0.75. And is it just losing something because it... So if we put border on this... Okay, so that now has a border added. Right, and now I think they are the same size. Can you style the border color? So could I make that... What's the background color? There's a lot of reading involved. Like you've really got to scan across. What? How does that have a background color? Let's see the hover background color. Is that? Oh, BG red 400. Right. Oh my god, this is like a lot. The BG red 400 is fine, and then I want border. Total guess. Like that? No. Okay, that was good. That was a good guess though, I think. Border. Color. Border red 400. What did I put in? Ah, border BG. I'm an idiot. Okay, so border red 400. I can't unselect it because the zoom's all messed up. Get rid of that. Okay, so now they're the same height. Okay, so that's some interesting stuff that's not Tailwind specific. That's just stuff you deal with in CSS anyway. Fine. That's all good. Okay, so what this is reminding me is just like how long it takes to design and build a UI. But this is like super helpful. When I've done more learning of Tailwind than we've actually done kind of designing anything. Don't think that's a problem though. All right, let's get this matching and centered at all the viewports, and then I think we'll have to call it a day because I'm getting like, how long have we been going here? This is a long one today. Oh my god, we're nearly up to 2 hours. So respect to you if you've dropped in and out of this, or to all the people who watch it with my voice really sped up, all of it, the frames really sped up. Let's get it centered and get it matched to all the viewports, and then we can leave it there. So this can this can just sit in the middle, right? No? Is that not what we had the other one doing? Do we then still need to have it sit? Oh, is it because we gave it a specific width as well? Out of curiosity. I'm not suggesting we do that, but is that what made it sit? Yeah, okay. So we could just align. You could put a div with the text center. Does Flexbox have a natural alignment for flex center parent? No, these are all about the children. So it's already displayed flex. Fuck it, I don't really. So I think just wrapping it will work. He says optimistically, and I've already forgotten if it's text center. Yeah, I think it is. That will not work. Okay, cool. Because it needs to not be 100% wide, which, like, is it right? Inline flex, or specify the height, so inline flex will get us where we need to go. So can I do that without the text center then? No, because even if it's inline, so it still needs to know what the parent is, and that needs to be specified. Okay, so then we want to close this and have inline flex. So I'm guessing we then don't need flex inline flex. Cool, okay. Right, so now we want this to... Oh, I didn't add any of that stupid border stuff to the actual code. Oh, I think it's still here, so I think I still can. So I haven't refreshed it, so I think I can do... Nope. So, but that is still... Oh no, is it still a couple pixels off? Yeah, it is. Okay, so it was... border... red 400. And then I think we had to specify one of the other values as well. So border red 400. But then we have to actually add border explicitly as well, because that's just setting the color. Yeah, now they're the same size. Okay. And you can see on the hover, we then have to deal with that as well. You can see there that the border is staying the same size, staying the same color. So we would need MD hover border. Oh, we can do it here, I guess. That would then be so that's hover BG red 500. We want that, but we want it at the border red for. Oh, we can just. Right, so we want hover border red 500. Oh man, this zoom level is just says something about when me putting my mouse there. It jumps it back to the start. Hover border red 500. So that should now change the same way. This is just zoomed in. Yep, so now it matches, I think. Great, so that's now in the center. That's now there. Okay, now that one doesn't match because we've got something on the text box that isn't on the button. So that's MD text LG. So let's go over to where we've got our MDs set for. So that is MD text LG. Okay, so that's the same on both. And let's go back to our responsive tool. Oops, that's not it. It's this one. And remember what viewport that's actually happening. So that's happening. So it's correct at MD. It's actually on SM. It's actually on SM where it's wrong. So here we've got nothing happening. Happening on SM on either. I'm not too sure which one's correct. Okay, so that I think they're the same size as they are to start with, so it's on the actual root. So letting 7. Does this one have like a text set on the base? Like a line height set on the base? No, do we want to set that? So what's the default line height and padding on this one? Let's put this back on the right so you can see it. So here we've got padding is PY3. And that's the same. The letting is 7 as 175 REM. No, this one's got letting tight on it. Right, so where is that? That can go away. So letting tight can go away from the button. Great, so now we've got the same height here and the same height here. Probably a bit big at that size, but they're the same, which is what we were trying to get to. Cool, so that's centered. And we probably want some space below our big heading. Oh, I'm guessing what that was earlier. I guessed at MB. Is it MB? MX? Because it's... No, because MX would be both. It is MB, okay. So we can say on here. And this one will get resized, reordered because it's the HTML, so that plugin will kick in. Great, so we've got some space there, which we can adjust as we go along. So let's kill this now. Cool, and we're going to kill this motor tool. Amazing. So, okay, just because I'm kind of getting hungry, we've been going a long time. Oh my God, we've been going 2 hours. I'm really into this. Like I'm interested in it. I'm not sure I'm not sure about whether I would use it for a project. I think it would depend on a few things, like was it being custom designed? Like I'd be interested in like the maintainability of the code we've just written. So presumably this is now our, like this button isn't like any other buttons because it has to match the size of this text box thing, but maybe this all here becomes a component, like in view component that we were talking about. So yeah, I'm interested, super interested, and yeah, it kind of works, and it's nice not to have the world's worst UI at the top. We'll come back and finish some of the stuff at the top next week. Yeah, we're just gonna carry on with Tailwind stuff next week. So I think we're gonna do at least 2 weeks of this. So this week and next week, and then we'll try and come back to some Rails stuff afterwards. But to be honest, this is kind of interesting, and I think other people might find it interesting as well if they've been looking at it. And maybe we code up the UI and then, I don't know, I was gonna say we could do it without using Tailwind and just code it ourselves and see how we feel different about it, but then that's not particularly Railsy either. So maybe I don't know, maybe we do something all together in a couple weeks. But thank you so much for everyone who has checked it out. Thank you if you're watching later after the live stream and you're just watching this on YouTube. Thank you so much to anyone who has dropped. So David has dropped some amazing things that have stopped me going around in too many circles today. And yeah, hopefully this was useful for everyone. More Tailwind stuff next week. And we will just keep going with the UI. We'll do some more sketches and some more layout stuff. We'll try and get that menu built maybe. Yeah, just interesting stuff. Have a lovely weekend. Have a lovely week. And see you all next week.